Hello, beautiful souls. Today's episode is so good. And before we jump in, I have some exciting news to share. If you've ever wondered where you're blocking money, this is for you. I've created a free quiz to diagnose your money wounds so you can heal them and unblock yourself to receive more money. Just go to moneywoundsquiz.com and answer 6 quick questions to get your insanely accurate and potent results. And if you're loving my vibe and want to work one-on-one to call in more feminine energy wealth, I would love to hear from you. You can shoot me a DM on social media or go to emilywilcox.com to learn more. Hello, and welcome back to the M Makes Money show. I am here to talk about June and not only talk about celebrations, but also talk about the things that stretched me during the month. That's something that I want to start sharing because although I really tend to want to hold on to the celebrations and amplify the celebrations, and even when things feel challenging, I'm always looking for what can be appreciated, what I can feel grateful for, and what I can celebrate. I don't ever want anyone listening to feel like this is just a highlight reel and that you're not getting the truth of what's going on behind the scenes. June actually felt like, I don't know, a slow month, a month of, I don't know, maybe some loss of momentum and just not perhaps as celebratory as some of past months have naturally felt. So I guess it's perfect timing to also just be sharing the stretches for June. So maybe I'll start there. So let's talk about what was stretchy and uncomfortable in June. So we had a lot of family illnesses. Faye had some fevers, then she had some stomach stuff, then JJ got some of the stomach bug, whatever it was. I got COVID. So I felt like for 2 weeks, I wasn't totally myself. Like I didn't get it super bad. I never had to fully take off of work. But I was sort of doing the bare minimum. Like I would do 2 or 3 hours of work and then feel like I had run a marathon and I needed to go lay down and take a nap. And so it really was a lot of just fulfilling on what I already had committed, but not having the capacity to dream into more or launch more, right? And at the tail end of COVID, and I don't know if it was related or not, but I had like 2 days with vertigo. And then I would say like 2 more days where I felt like 95% or maybe 98%, but just that little, like that last little bit where I still felt a little bit off kilter. So I just had been craving like feeling normal, feeling like my full energy levels, feeling like I was on solid ground. Like I'm so grateful that my health is normally so dialed in. But June was definitely a month that tested that. I would say the other stretchy thing in June was the kids' schedules. So them finishing up regular school and then being on summer break. And with JJ less so, but with Faye, it's been pretty different because she had 1 week of like no camp at all. And then she just has camp in the afternoon and JJ's going to a different school. So like every day having to use some brain power to just think about logistics with the kids and sort of adjust to the new schedule, and doing that in the midst of not always feeling well definitely felt like a bit of a challenge. So I came into June with like a ton of momentum in my coaching business because I'd done all of those birthday sales in May. So I was still delivering on some of that and just really experiencing the effects of a lot of new clients in my world and new people jumping into containers with me, which felt absolutely amazing. And so I actually really thought there was a good chance, like if that momentum continued, that in June, my one-on-one would be totally booked out and I would have a paid wait list. So that felt super exciting. And that was something that I shared. Like if you look on my social media, and spoiler alert, that did not happen. And I actually just wrote a post on social media about why I think that didn't happen and like what intuitively I felt like was off in the changes that I made. So I won't necessarily rehash it here, but it definitely just was a month of like me not feeling like I had as much capacity to sell, and then things just feeling slow compared to prior months. So let's talk about what went well and what we celebrated in June. So I delivered a program called 7K in 7 days. And that's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I'm really proud of myself about the way that I showed up and how powerful that container was and the results that the clients got in that space, the results that I got being inside of that program as well. And that actually was while I had COVID. But I really felt like I was able to show up and lead in a potent way. And I'm super proud of that. JJ started at his new preschool and just absolutely loved it. I was thoroughly convinced that his 4-year-old brain just didn't understand the fact that although he wanted to go to a new school, that it meant that he wouldn't be going to his old school. So I was like really prepared for him to start asking about his old teacher and his old classmates and maybe have some delayed grieving over that. And I was really pleasantly surprised by the fact that he just seamlessly transitioned. Like it was no big deal at all. The first day drop off, he just went right in and started playing and just waved at me from inside the classroom and said, "Bye, Mom." And that was that. Like he just really likes it there and he's making new friends and he's really happy to go every day. And I've been just appreciating how when one thing changes in the family routine, it really brings a fresh energy to everything. So, it's a little bit of a different schedule. It's a very different location than his other preschool. And so it's just changing up our normal routine in a way that feels really good. Like I do love routine and I love some structure. And it's nice when we can bring some new energy to that and just mix it up a little bit. And it's especially great when it means that, he's thriving and just loving it. And it's fun to not have to put him in uniforms anymore, like he had to wear at his other preschool. So that was something definitely worth celebrating. I also ran a mini mind container in June, and I did as sort of this like free / hybrid, like paid container. And I got so many incredible applicants for the free portion. And it was also like really beautiful to see that one of the application questions was like, what drew you to this container? And people just saying you and wanting to be in your energy and wanting to work with you. And it's just beautiful to see that reflected back, like from so many people that I've never worked with before, or that I wasn't even necessarily aware of them following me or following my work or desiring to be in closer proximity. And I'm also bragging that that container really was beautifully held. It was a creative way of putting together a mastermind like experience and having some people in for free and some people paid. And I think I did it in a really cool way. And I know that all of the participants got a ton out of it and really shifted a lot. Like some of these women, went on to have their first $10,000 day, for example. Like that's a big deal. And because of coaching that I was able to give them inside of a free container, are you kidding me? So I'm bragging about that. We also had fun Father's Day celebrations, which felt particularly good because Jeff is just the best dad, the best husband, does so freaking much for our family. And it felt really nice to be able to spoil him and put together a full weekend of things that he loved, including guitar playing and singing and going to an incredible, $100 per person brunch and giving him gifts and just showering him with love and affection. In June, Faye and I also took our trip to Michigan to celebrate my nephew's high school graduation. And we just had such a nice time. And the trip really exceeded expectations in terms of being able to spend time with family. And it was so sweet to see Faye's reaction as well. Like multiple times, she was just like, Mom, we're really doing it. We're really taking a mother-daughter trip on a plane together. Like she would stop watching her shows on the plane to squeeze my leg and say that to me. This is so beautiful to receive. And I'm so grateful that we did it. I also spoke at an event in June. It was called Ecom Sweetie. And it was a women in e-commerce event. It was the inaugural one. And this is an example where universe just delivered me everything. It wasn't an either or, it ended up being a both and, because I was meant to be speaking there about Amazon, right? And how to slay the game on Amazon, which of course I can speak about. Honestly, it's like so easy for me to talk about Amazon strategy. I can do it in my sleep. I don't really need to prepare for it. Although I did have to make some slides. But other than that, like it's so easy and I do enjoy it. And Jeff had asked me the day of, we were out to lunch and he's like, are you excited for your talk? And when I checked in with myself, I'm like, kind of, but I really actually wish that I was just speaking about the coaching stuff, the mindset work, the money healing. And he was like, you should just do that. I'm like, no, I'm not just going to do that. I was invited to speak about Amazon. I'm going to stick, to what the assignment was. But I did put in my bio slide that I do spend a lot of time coaching women entrepreneurs on money healing and wealth building. So I'm opening the door, right? And so I gave my talk, which was awesome. And then in the Q&A, the questions flipped from Amazon to money stuff. And there was just a really healthy, vibrant Q&A around that piece. And it turned out to actually be the last talk of the whole event. And everyone was coming up to me afterwards saying like, wow, that ended up being the best way to close out this event. And none of us planned it that way. It just, universe planned it that way. And we all were in flow and allowed the flow of life to carry us in that direction. And it felt so cool for me to have women approaching me saying like, I want to hire you for, to help my brand get on Amazon. And other women being like, I want to work with you. Like, I want to hire you as a coach. The both and, right? Like we really get to have it all. And it was such a good, tangible reminder for me. And I feel super grateful about that, very celebratory. And I guess I also just want to brag on myself that I was able to stand on stage without any prep and field questions about inner child work and stepping into worthiness around money and, how to be doing venture capital fundraising and hold the belief and not be in too much masculine energy. Like there were just all kinds of questions. And I was almost witnessing myself thinking like, I could not have done this maybe even 6 months ago. So it really was just a beautiful outward symbol of how much growth there's been and how confident I feel in my coaching and my public speaking. And it really inspired me to start speaking on more stages. Other celebrations. We flew my nephew out here for a visit, which was, just a dream come true. That's something that we're doing now for all of our nieces and nephews for their 18th birthday, is gifting them a trip to California. So he turned 18 back in February, but just cashed it in and came out over his summer break. And it was also really fun to just see the power of community, because he wanted to skateboard and surf. And I was able to borrow a skateboard from a friend, and we went to a skate park. And then some other friends met us at the beach and had borrowed a foam board, surfboard from a neighbor so that James could use it. And they taught him, just a few tips on catching waves, and he totally rocked it. And all of the dolphins came out. Like, I've never seen so many dolphins on the beach at once. And there was a point in time when they literally he could have touched the dolphin while he was surfing. Like, who gets to experience that even once in their life? And to be part of facilitating that experience for him at age 18 felt super special. Okay, so Jeff and I also ended up doing a 24-hour trip to Vegas. And this was something that I surprised him with. And it was meaningful for a lot of different reasons. Number one, if you know me, you know that I actually don't like Vegas. So it's a place that I tend to avoid. And I made a new entrepreneurial friend actually at that Ecom Sweetie event. And we had been trying to get together, and we're texting back and forth. And I said something like, "Oh, are you around this weekend?" And she was like, "We're going to be in Vegas, so it'll have to be a different weekend." And she's like, "Unless you want to come to Vegas." And I felt a sacral yes when she texted that, which really surprised me. And then her next text was, we're here to see, or we're going to see Joe Rogan. And my husband loves Joe Rogan. So it felt like even more confirmation. Now, this was really last minute. So I was like, well, it might be hard for me to pull this off, but if I can, I will try. And of course, everything fell into place. It stretched my receiving to ask one of my friends to be able to watch the kids for 24 hours. I booked plane tickets and comedy show tickets and made a hotel reservation and surprised Jeff with the whole thing. Now, the other cool thing that came out of doing this, aside from the fact that we had a phenomenal time and really, really enjoyed the other couple's company, and the comedy show was awesome, and we went to our favorite restaurant, which used to exist in LA and doesn't anymore, but there's a Vegas location. So like all of that was incredible. And there's a charity that we donated to back in November of last year, and they are headquartered in Vegas. And so we had made a $10,000 donation to them last year, which is the biggest like lump sum donation that Jeff and I had ever made. And they had said, like, whenever you come to Vegas, we'll do like a picture with the big check. So I reached out to them and said, "Hey, we're going to be in Vegas just on this one day. Could we get together and learn more about your program and take a picture?" And they were like, "We're actually in Malibu right now on like a summer camp experience with the kids. Why don't you come up here and see what we're doing?" So that same week, we ended up spending a day with the Inspiring Children Foundation in Malibu, and it was so impactful. We brought Faye with us, and we were able to meet, all of these high school students, and some were college students that were like alumni of the program who, have experienced really profound trauma. And yet through this foundation, they're using meditation and mindfulness in combination with traditional trauma tools, with a peer mentoring program, with an incredible exercise program, with project-based learning, with housing assistance, to just completely change the way that they're walking themselves through and processing their trauma and, becoming capable young adults. So it just honestly blew us away. And it was such a good reminder of what all this money means. It's like we often spend time thanking our money, and it felt so good to be able to thank our money for being able to help, this foundation. And while we were there, they had mentioned that they had raised $3,000 to cover the cost of this camp experience. And Jeff leaned over and whispered in my ear, and he's like, "Can we tell them that we'll match the donation?" And I was like, "Yes." So we told them, they were super excited. And it just felt like embodiment of this next level version of me, like this wealthier woman who can easily say yes to a $3,000 donation and not feel a lot of fear or clenching or like triggering in my body. It wasn't perfect. Like I definitely had a moment of like, oh, can we? And I'm like, yes, we can. Like it's all good. So that was definitely worth celebrating. I also had a new client join the Becoming, which is my year-long mastermind, and she is incredible. I'm so excited to have her in this container where we get 12 months together. Like it's just the depth and intimacy, and it goes the distance. And it's one of my favorite places because what I have found for myself in receiving mentorship is that when my coach knows me, and not just knows me in this one moment or one iteration or one season, but like can really start to see patterns in the way that I think, the way I feel, the way I behave, I can receive better coaching. Like she can better coach me. And I notice the same thing with my clients. Like the longer I know them, the more I can just see like, oh yeah, that's this old thing again. This is just the new iteration. And my client will be like, oh my gosh, you're right. And those things can't happen inside of really short containers. So it just feels so good to have this incredible new agency owner, mama of 3, like just beautiful soul inside of that container. I also had 2 interested buyers for 2 of our businesses. So that feels really fun to brag about. We'll see if and where it takes us, but the fact that there are people pursuing us and wanting to consider purchasing our businesses is always an exciting thing. The last celebration for June is that Faye is loving this cooking and gardening camp that she's in, and they're making incredible recipes. I got tagged in one of their Instagram posts and I looked at the food and I'm like, this is the kind of food we would buy at a 5-star restaurant. Like it looks incredible. It had all of this garnish on it with like herbs and edible flowers. It looked so gorgeous. So I started following their account and, one day they were grilling peaches and filling them with vanilla yogurt and with a honey drizzle. Like it's been really cool. And she absolutely loves it. And I've just been blown away by how much they've been learning. Okay. One other little stretchy thing that I forgot in June was getting a bad haircut and bad dye. So yes, it's vain. Yes, it's a first world problem. And also as a woman and as a woman who is on video a lot and who is the face of her brand, getting a bad haircut and getting a bad hair dye, not the best. No bueno. So with all of that said, let's talk numbers. So June was $21,446 cash in my coaching business and $105,000 cash across multiple business channels. So what I said about June feeling slow and just not feeling like peak momentum or peak energy was all very true. And it's like you look at the numbers and you say, okay, nothing's really wrong here. Everything's actually good. And something that actually didn't even make the celebrations list was 2 new incredible clients at our agency as well. So that helped contribute to that $105,000 cash across all businesses. So I'm really grateful that even in the months that feel a little energetically funky or I'm learning lessons, it's like the medicine that universe is giving me is not like the nasty, disgusting stuff where you think you're going to throw up and have a hard time even like choking it down. I feel like I'm getting like the grape syrup, like the stuff that actually doesn't taste too bad. It goes down pretty smooth and life is good. I'm not having any major side effects from it. So did I learn things in June? Yes. Was it my favorite month ever? No. Is life all good? Absolutely. So thanks for sharing this journey with me. Thanks for coming along for the ride. I would love to hear any reflections that you have on your June. What were you celebrating? What were any stretches that happened for you in the month? So as you're listening to this, feel free to take a screenshot, share it, tag me at mmakesmoney, and I promise I will respond and we can celebrate together, or we can commiserate in the stretchiness together. But I so appreciate you for tuning in and listening, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. Before you go, I have something fun to share. Now, when you leave a review of the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, take a quick screenshot and send it to hi@emilywilcox.com. You'll be entered into a drawing to win a free one-on-one Voxer coaching day with me, and you help the show reach more new listeners. Such a win-win. I also invite you to follow me on Instagram at mmakesmoney and to jump into my free Telegram community, The Money Club, which is linked in the show notes. Until next time, I'm sending you all the magic money vibes.